All right, we are officially live on the This Is Awesome Pro Wrestling Recap podcast. Wow. What more can you say right now other than wow? Um, I'm a little bit, I'm buzzing right now. I'm a little misty eyed. Uh, all the emotions are coming through. And yeah, just what an incredible spectacle that we just saw the ending of night two to WrestleMania 40. Um, I'm gonna. The initial plan was to recap the show. I don't know if we'll even get to the full show because after a main event like we just saw, we might take all our time just on that alone. If you, for some reason, were not tuning in but are somehow tuning into this, I mean, I guess that would be weird, but we still appreciate you. Yes, Cody Rhodes has done it. Cody Rhodes has finished the story, defeating Roman Reigns in the main event of night two WrestleMania in a Bloodline Rules match. I'm just going to go ahead and start with some of the things I'm feeling. As I said, I'm buzzing. I feel like I'm glowing. Um, this is the reason why I will never grow up. This is the reason why I will remain a pro wrestling fan for the rest of my life. Wrestling is one of those things that, yes, you have to drudge through a lot of bad. You have to, sift through the crap. But when you get to the good stuff, it's not just good, it is fucking great and one of the best storytelling devices that's out there. At the end of last year, Cody Rhodes came up short when it looked like the most obvious thing ever that he was going to finish the story. Um, at that point in time, I was kind of like, wow, why would they do this? Is this really worth it? Are they going to try to draw this out another year? What could possibly be the plan, or what would make more sense than Cody just winning the match? I can confidently say now, a year later, it was worth it. They, pulled out all the stops this year, and as I say that, we're going to bring Brent right into onto the stage here.
Hi.
Brent, welcome. I just got a little head start on you. I had to release some emotions here. I don't know if you're like me.
I was worried. I was worried you were going to be releasing something else, but
Yeah, well, if that was CM Punk, maybe, but
next year.
we'll see. But I got misty eyed. I got emotional watching the end of that match. The spectacle was out of this world, and we'll get into everything that kind of happened. But just overall, your thoughts on right now? We're just talking main event of night two. What did you think of that match, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns?
I mean, I don't think it was really anything other than what we were kind of expecting out of it. I did think I was a little surprised that it was more of just a straightforward wrestling match for a solid probably 75% of it, and then it kind of got to the overbooked schmozziness of all the run-ins and stuff. But yeah, I mean, overall, it accomplished the goal that it needed to do. It was a solid match. Um, and the ending was what the ending needed to be. I was kind of surprised that they gave Cody they kind of stuck with it. It feels like longer than they normally did, and actually kind of celebrated and reveled in the moment. Normally, it was just like, all right, well, he won the championship, that's great, and then it's the end of the show. And it was kind of nice that he kind of was able to, you know, get the microphone, say a little bit, not a whole lot, but then have a big celebration with a lot of people and stuff like that. It was very circa a wrestler that we can't talk about anymore in the end of that WrestleMania and with Eddie Guerrero and everything. And yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely a big moment in WWE history and a start of this new Renaissance era or whatever. I mean that is they're there now, so we'll see where this ride takes us.
The Paul Levesque era, the
Yeah.
Reign of Terror Part Two. Just kidding.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it felt earned. The after everything that we've seen, knowing the backstory, and you could see the genuine emotion on just about everybody in the ring's face at the end there. I'm glad they stuck with it as long as they did, and it was a nice treat for all of us to not only celebrate with Cody, but to get a little bit of peek behind the curtain to see, who's close with who. But let's go ahead and talk about the match. As you said, it was, I mean, mostly a wrestling match, which I enjoyed that aspect of the match. We saw, of course, it's a WrestleMania main event, so we spammed a lot of finishers. We stole
Yep.
finishers. That that was a given. But one of the things that I took away from this match was it was during a spot where Roman had just hit Rhodes with his finisher and with Cody's finisher, and he got the 1-2, and I popped a little bit because Roman goes, "Nah, nah, that's I can't win with that move. That's a bitch move. Like nobody wins with that move." And he just looked at Heyman and he was like, "I could do this all night. I love whooping his ass." And it really made me think about how far this man has come from the so unsure of himself on the microphone, is as unnatural as it gotten to now the guy's just out there having fun, showing off the charisma. But yeah, as you said, a solid wrestling match until we got to the shenanigans.
Yeah, I totally. And yeah, I don't even really know where to go from here, honestly.
Well, the first kind of like appetizer that we saw was Jimmy Uso gets involved. We hear Jay Uso's music. Crowd popped big for that, so I was happy for Jay. Jay comes out and takes out Jimmy in a spot that almost gave me a heart attack because I did not see the tables. They were kind of like they blended
It
into
was
the
a very
ground.
dark area, yeah, for sure.
I totally thought they just yeeted themselves off the stage completely. So at that point, Jimmy and Jay have taken each other out of the picture. Of course, we knew what was coming up next. Solo Sikoa hits the ring, hits the Samoan spike, the I don't know, the Emperor Commodus from Gladiator, thumbs in the middle. So he hits that, get 1-2. He gets back up. They do the Samoan spike spear combo. Not the biggest fan of the world of the guy taking two finishers at once and kicking out, but I
Yeah,
digress.
that was a little like, oh boy, they just kind of buried two finishers in a way.
Yeah, and I think even though a lot of people expected it, we hear the Apado John Cena, to me, in my eyes, the greatest of all time, hits the ring. I thought, is that you or is that the real
Yeah,
song?
that was
That was pretty good.
we'll never know.
Yeah, well done. Cena hits the ring. I thought that maybe they missed a cue or something. It took a long time, but he did
It
hit the
did take a
ring.
long time. It looked like he like maybe showed up late or something, and it was just like, oh, we got to run out there.
One thing I did love too, and again, this is just it was an emotional night for me. I was looking at things in a different way. Like I was glad that the crowd went apeshit for John Cena. After all the years of the mixed crowds to the Cena sucks, he got a great WrestleMania moment where everybody was just universally in on Cena. So that was cool. He takes out Solo, hits Roman with a attitude adjustment, which I was fine with because Cody had just been subject to some interference. So turnaround is fair
Yeah,
play. I think the
right.
old cliche is.
Yep, absolutely.
Final boss, The Rock's music hits, an awesome stare down between Rock and Cena, kind of hitting us in the nostalgia feels. Crowd went nuts for that as well. Rock hits the rock bottom on John Cena, taking him out. And then someone else jumped in. Probably not the
Boom.
person that a lot of people thought. I was thinking that we were going to hear the glass break. If I have one, I guess, critique is, who knows if he was available or not. But I was thinking we were going to see Stone Cold there, and I think that the pop would have been otherworldly, even though the Undertaker did get a nice pop.
Undertaker did get a good pop, but at the same time, it was just like it would have been a much bigger moment and a much bigger. It would have made more sense historically if it was Stone Cold because there is that built-in history with Stone Cold and The Rock, where Undertaker and The Rock really, yeah, they've crossed paths from time to time, but it wasn't really, it wasn't a big rivalry.
Right? I was
It
trying to
didn't
think.
it didn't main event WrestleMania or anything.
Sure, and I can't really think of a time where they had a significant feud or rivalry
No,
or
I
even
feel
big
like they were
match.
in matches, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, not really.
It still worked for the, I
Yeah,
guess, the purposes of this story.
it got The Rock taken out of the match, so that's what they needed to do, and it kind of got the. It feels like they were going very attitude heavy with everything, with The Rock being there, with Triple H taking over, with that being his added, with his era, and then bringing out the other Attitude Era guy to kind of take him out. I think that was where they were going.
Yeah, The Undertaker evens the odds. Then we finally got back to where it all started. Just Cody and Roman. Cody eventually hits the crossroads 3 times in a row, gets the 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and just like that, the fourth longest reign. WWE would like you to believe it was the longest, but the fourth longest reign in WWE
It was the
history.
longest Universal Championship reign.
This is true. That comes to an end, and with everything that happened tonight, I do want to just give some props to Roman Reigns. What a turnaround for that man, his career, and a few times in the last couple of years, he's made absolute magic. The things that come to mind to me are the feud that he had with Jay, the to me the pinnacle of the Bloodline feud last year with Sami Zayn, and then obviously what he's done for Cody now. That should not just be swept under the rug. Roman is definitely a legend in this business, and who could have seen that coming?
I mean, Vince did. That's for sure. He just, give him say what you will about the guy. He definitely saw the potential there and tried to, he wanted to make it happen. He made it happen, and Roman, he was the guy, and he proved that he was worthy of that status. Where not everybody is that who's put in that spot has accomplished that goal. So
I do want to point out, I completely, my mind went blank before The Undertaker came out. We hear the music of the Shield. The Rock is looking
oh,
around, and
yeah, well, that doesn't really even count because he like could barely walk and barely got into the ring and then was taken out.
and I want to know, did you have, like I did for a split second, did you think, did they get Ambrose for this? Because it wasn't Rollins, it was the Shield. I'm like, how could this be possible? Number one, but it still crossed my mind. Could you
Oh yeah,
imagine what would have happened?
I mean, no doubt it crossed my mind that it was just like, is Mox gonna show up? Like what? Because like I didn't
Tony and
picture.
Paul were working us all along.
Yeah, right. That would be amazing. But yeah, no.
Yeah, did Seth really get hurt, or was he still selling?
I don't know the way he was acting after everything, like how slowly he got out of the ring at the end of the speech and everything, and how he kind of just like rolled and kind of like out of there, and then Kevin like immediately grabbed him. It was just kind of like maybe he is really screwed up. I don't know, but
If not, he's that's a great piece of sports entertainment right
yeah,
there.
yeah,
He worked us.
right.
So yeah, Rollins was part of that whole melee, but then after the match, Cody gets the big celebration. I mean, this could be a podcast episode alone, just the celebration aspect of it. So Brandy was the first to hit the ring. I thought maybe when they cut to The Rock and he was picking up Roman, I thought, all right, we're going to see another angle here. Something else is going to happen. The Rock's going to hit the ring. Maybe then we're going to get the Stone Cold entrance. But nope, he just picked him up. Him and Paul Heyman carried Roman to the back. Eventually, we see all the baby faces, kind of reminiscent of WrestleMania 10 with Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh yeah.
They all came out, and what I enjoyed is, save for LA Knight, pretty much everybody that was out there had a reason to be out there to congratulate Cody, and they were part of the Roman Reigns storyline. So you had Sami Zayn, you had Kevin Owens, you had Jey Uso, who made his way back. Randy Orton had played a big part in Cody's career, so it was neat to see not just, hey, every baby face on the roster come out, like
Right.
the guys that really have a part in this story. And again, maybe LA Knight just snuck out there.
I mean, I guess he did get beat by Roman, but I mean, yeah, it really wasn't a
If
significant
anybody
portion.
remembers.
Yeah, right.
Of course, we saw CM Punk out there. Don't think I missed that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and maybe I will, and I'm sure I will be in the heavy minority on this. But when Cody grabbed the mic, I think this was after Mom got in the ring. He called out 2 people. One I expected, and one I did not. So he calls out Triple H, and of all people, Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, that was shocking.
I think Bruce. I've really gotten to like Bruce from listening to his podcast over the years. I'm sure, and you heard some boos when he came out. I'm sure a lot of it is guilt by association, just him being Vince McMahon's right-hand man for so long. But Bruce Pritchard, he himself was a man who's been through a lot. And I think that without Bruce, like Cody said, he's not sure Cody comes back. And even someone like CM Punk, I know Bruce was a guy that got Punk when not a lot of people did and took up for Punk over the years. So Bruce Pritchard, maybe a bad rap, but I I was kind of happy to see Brother Love out there getting his flowers.
I love you.
He loves Cody. And then, of course, you have Triple H, Paul Levesque out there. What a moment when you really look back at, we talked about it yesterday a little bit, that first AEW show where Cody essentially declares war on Triple H and WWE. And God, it feels like that was yesterday, the next day, so to speak.
Yeah.
There they are hugging in the middle of the ring. Obviously, you have thoughts of Dusty that come to mind. But just from a spectacle point of view, I don't know if you could top a main event like that.
I'm sure there will be at some point. I'm sure next year's main event will be the greatest main event of all time in WrestleMania history. But
just ask them.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I mean, at this point, there really isn't a built-in storyline or anything that really makes sense that could top this for quite a while. So,
and again, props to everybody at WWE that made it happen. I think, as I mentioned when I first started the podcast tonight, a year ago when Cody lost, a lot of people were just kind of like, really? Like, you build it up, you just for this to happen, and there's no way they'll be able to do this in a year and have people care about it. And they pulled it off. Where we go from here, who knows? They've been saying it's a new era. It's the Paul Levesque era. It's the Renaissance era, whatever you want to call it. It certainly feels like it with all the title changes that we saw at this WrestleMania. A lot of old streaks coming to an end and new beginnings for many of the, especially baby faces. There's a lot of babyface wins this year.
Yeah, I mean, that is very old school WrestleMania booking, but at the same time, a lot of it just really did make a lot of sense. It wasn't just baby faces winning for babyface sake. Like, a lot of them felt like they were very necessary wins, and that all of them are good choices to, for the next step, for the next pay-per-view, for the next whatever, for the next feuds that they're going to have. All of the wins made sense, and there's a lot of logical places for everything to go. Even like going back to yesterday, like Gunther losing, like now he's going to be in a better spot because of his Intercontinental reign and everything like that. It feels like everybody got elevated, whether they won, whether they lost. Everything is makes sense, and everybody's in a pretty good position where, yeah, even after like last WrestleMania, you can't say the same thing going on to that show. So,
well, the show tonight kicked off with Stephanie McMahon? Question mark.
yeah,
I thought she was cutting a decent promo, and then she decided to cosplay as her husband. That was the gold medal in the Cringe Olympics.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, after that, we got Seth Rollins, what do they call that belt? I don't know, the runner-up belt.
The
World Heavyweight Championship.
I think it's the World Heavyweight belt, but I'm not even 100% sure on what they call their belts now anymore. It's just, I don't know.
We had Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre with CM Punk on color commentary. No entrance CM Punk, which is a little bit surprising to me.
He came out like at the end of the pre-show, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I saw him come out and he was slapping hands with people in the front row and everything. So he did come out. He did do it on TV, but maybe wasn't on the shows on the pre-show. I'm not sure.
So speaking of entrances, Drew McIntyre gets the bagpipes. Seth Rollins gets a acid trip. I'm still not sure what that was supposed to be, who that was for, what that was trying to accomplish, but it was something.
I was kind of just miffed by the entire thing, but I know, like, I think Pat McAfee kind of touched on, like, that it was like a Philadelphia thing, and like Jason Kelsey dressed up as whatever those things were in like a parade or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very niche Philadelphia thing that clearly did not transcend at least the tri-state area. So
at least it was something besides the Eagles. I feel like every guy wore Philadelphia Eagle themed.
There was so much Eagle stuff. It was between both nights. It was ridiculous.
They're really trying to get something with the NFL going, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was a good match. It felt a little bit like a Brock Lesnar match to me, where it was just like high spot finishers, high spots, table spots, a good way to get the crowd hyped. And CM Punk did not get involved in the match itself. We saw Drew McIntyre beat Seth Rollins. I mean, I guess pretty clean. It was
It
just
was it was pretty clean. It was pretty quick. That match did not take very long, which did make me think additionally that maybe Seth Rollins was banged up because that match was really short.
sure. So yes, Drew McIntyre gets his big moment, wins the World Heavyweight Championship in front of actual people. Immediately goes over to Punk, rubs it in his face, and I mean, this is one of the oldest storytelling devices in the book. Pride comes before the fall. Uh, Punk eventually snaps. After all the things that McIntyre was saying to him, it was a suck it chop that got him. I mean, who can't relate to that? Punk nails him with the brace that he was wearing for his tricep recovery. As I predicted, we hear the music of the Judgment Day. Damian Priest makes his way as Punk smirks. We have a new world heavyweight champion, Damian Priest, which by the end of the show, you almost forgot that happened because
Oh
so
yeah.
much happened. But I'm
Without
excited.
you saying that just now, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Damian Priest. I don't know how they're going to book him as world champion. This could be a transitional reign. We don't really know yet, but I do think he has some potential both as a heel and a babyface. And I did also mention yesterday, I think that the Judgment Day has some juice left in that orange.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he's gonna do. I don't think it's gonna be like we're not gonna be talking about this as like a Roman Reigns esque title reign by any means, but if he can have some good matches and not yeah, if they can make this work, then absolutely. I'm not like super charged up about it, but I think Damian Priest is a good worker. I liked him as Punishment Martinez back in the day, and I always saw a lot of potential there. I never really saw him as a top of the card guy, but hey, in this new era, especially with Cody working both shows, it's not like he's gonna have a ton of pressure on him, and to be like the absolute guy. And I think yeah, this is a good time to run this through at least until the draft, and then kind of see where things go from there.
Yeah, and it's now that we're talking about it, I guess they will probably have a match or two with him and McIntyre. I believe. Is there another Clash at the Castle coming up
There is in June
in June?
15th. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if he'll hold on to it that long, but they also have a show coming up in is it Germany where perhaps
France,
you'll
yeah, France is in 3 weeks, so
okay. So, I mean, if you need to have, when you go to these shows, Gunther's going to be a babyface in Germany. Drew's obviously going to be a babyface in the UK, wherever the Clash is this year. So
yeah,
maybe you can, have Damian be the de facto
Scotland.
heel.
Yeah, it's in Scotland, so it would make sense for that to be a big potential Drew moment. But that's also probably likely that Drew's going to lose then because that's just what they do. But
Maybe not. It's a new
maybe
era,
not.
Brent.
We'll see. We'll see.
After that, we've got the Final Testament, which we learned yesterday was that faction's name.
Yep.
Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain versus Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. This was a Philadelphia street fight, so all your typical plunder tables. There was some kendo sticks. It was okay. They needed something to fill the card with. They had Bubba Ray Dudley come out and be the special guest referee, so I didn't really mind that. It's in Philadelphia, and the match certainly, it wasn't hurt by it. Probably needed a little bit of something.
Yeah, I
By
mean, they
the
did. There wasn't really a street fight though. It was just kind of like around the ringside with weapons kind of fight. Like I would have, especially with all the different people, they could have had like some action spill out into the crowd and whatever, kind of like they did in the main event. Maybe that's why they didn't do it because I
more
don't know.
like a stadium stampede or something.
Yeah, yeah, it should have at least been a little bit more chaotic, but it just felt like, all right, we're just gonna fight in the ringside, and there's gonna be a couple tables and whatever. Yeah.
That is the thing with WWE. They have about 14 different ways that they can have a no DQ match and just call it something else.
Yeah, it's the exact same match. It's just whatever they want to call it.
I think I was wrong in this prediction. I picked Final Testament mainly because I thought they needed a win. But as the match progressed, it kind of just hit me that like it doesn't really matter who wins
Yeah,
this. It's just
that's exactly it. Yeah, it felt kind of like in a way, kind of like the women's tag match yesterday, where it's just like, yeah, let's just have the baby faces go over relatively quickly and just have on a fun match and whatever.
get your table spots in, get the
Yeah,
crowd to pop, do the
yeah,
was up. Everybody's happy.
right, exactly.
After that, we had LA Knight versus AJ Styles. This match, to me, I have to give these guys credit. They did everything they could to kind of come up with some heat on their own. They did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, via social media. I didn't really feel like this match had much heat going into it, but it wasn't for a lack of effort. It's just kind of, well, you guys are two big stars. We don't really have anything else for you right now. So you'll get a match. And maybe they kind of just gave them the freedom to just, you guys do what you want with it. LA Knight picks up the win. I don't foresee this continuing on as a feud. I think we're going to see a lot of shakeups tomorrow with the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. LA Knight getting the win. I didn't really think he needed it. I don't think AJ Styles needed it. Again, it was just kind of like, here's something.
Yeah, sad thing is, I could kind of see this spilling into more, just because I think both of these guys are kind of in that spot where they're not like, they don't have a bigger purpose at this point. They're just kind of guys who need a match, kind of like how this match came about. And I just feel like maybe they are just going to keep rolling with this feud and see where it could go. They could just ditch it completely this week too, but I could see maybe this just being a thing for just being a thing's sake. AJ Styles had a new theme song, which was interesting, and if like it's another door closing on the CFO's theme song era, and
Can't be many left, can there?
nah, just like Sammy, and yeah, there's not very many. Yeah, I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but it's not. It's Shinsuke's back, I think, to that one. Maybe
I think
he
I
kind of
like
switched it around, but
I liked a lot of the CFO themes.
I
I think
did
they got a
too.
bad rep.
I did too, and I wish that things would have worked out better with them. I can't even remember what happened, but at the end of the day, AJ has a new theme. I didn't really care for it, but at the same time, it felt like generic theme number 18 for a wrestler, but whatever. The match itself, I left more impressed with the match than I thought I was going to be. I was really not looking forward to this. I really don't care much for LA Knight in the ring, but I thought it hit all the spots that it needed to do. It did all the things that it did. I was sports entertained by it, and it was fine. It was good.
Yeah, and it had a little bit of like a blood feud feel to it. Like to me, if Jimmy and Jay had the like aura of this match, I think it
Yeah.
would have been a much
Oh,
better match. Like you felt like these
definitely.
two hated each other, whereas with Jimmy and Jay, you never really got that feeling that there was much emotion behind it, even though it was brother brother
Right. If
brother.
anything, yeah, if anything, yeah, that match felt like they wanted to like make it work again together, especially in that moment where like Jimmy's like, "No, we're gonna be friends," and then heel turn again. But like that match needed like Jey Uso to be kind of like how LA Knight was in this match, where LA Knight was just very aggressive and didn't just rely on super kicks the entire match. But so, yeah, it was great, great in that regard.
So after LA Knight has the people saying LA Knight, yeah. What was next? Oh, the
The
United States
Yeah,
Championship match.
yeah,
How
yeah,
could I
yeah.
forget? We had Logan Paul versus Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. This I enjoyed the beginning of Randy and KO just kind of having fun with it. Like, let's just kick this guy's ass. Obviously, you knew eventually it was, they were going to come to blows. But Logan Paul, God damn it, you are so good, and I hate it. He is just it's incredible to me, not just that, he does the athletic things, all of that great stuff, but his timing, how smooth he is in the ring. We've seen with celebrities that tried out the wrestling thing before, even when they have like a good pre-planned match and they're hitting their spots, there's still this little bit of awkwardness to it where, you can see they're kind of going beat for beat, but Logan Paul just looks like he's been doing this for 15 years. It's insane.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that at all. Yeah, he's very talented, very athletic, and just he gets it, which is something that just doesn't happen. And it's just like, how is Logan Paul a better wrestler than like Ronda Rousey? Like that doesn't really make sense when you break it all down. At the end of the day, like there's no reason that Ronda Rousey shouldn't have been able to like be an amazing superstar at professional wrestling, considering our background and everything. And you have this guy who's essentially a YouTube dude who'd like whatever. It's not like he has a major history, like a major athletic history before all of this stuff, and it's just like, dude is just an athletic specimen in the ring. So
and just oozes charisma.
right,
We saw some guy get involved that was in the Prime bottle. That was a different guy from the last time.
yeah,
Thanks for showing up for the sponsor, by the way, Brent.
yes, of course. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah, so some guy like Mr. Speed or something, I think they called
yes,
him.
I know he's. I know I saw that in a thing that his name was Speed. I don't know what the first part of it was, but yeah.
Sure. So Keanu Reeves gets kicked in the chest by
Which was
Randy
great.
Orton.
The kick in the chest was fantastic because Orton did not hold anything back on that dude at all.
Well, what I loved about it was the costume that he was in was anatomically correct because after he got kicked by Randy Orton, the cap flew off. So, like, it actually was a bottle top on there that was removable. That popped me.
Yeah.
He takes the RKO. Eventually, we see brass knuckles shenanigans, all legal in a three-way dance. I guess it was kind of like it didn't feel like a Mania match to me. Like you could have seen this at a Backlash or a Extreme Rules or
Yeah. Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
but it was still a good match. And if Logan Paul was going to retain, I was fine with the way that they did it. I picked Kevin Owens just because I thought he kind of needed some juice for kind of being dormant for a while, but apparently they're going to keep that title reign going for Logan Paul. And I suppose with the rest of the title switches, you didn't want to just have literally every belt switching hands tonight.
Yeah, I think that probably did play a role, and I think the fact that thinking about it, I did predict Logan Paul to win this match, but my rationale wasn't completely there. Thinking about it tonight, SummerSlam is in Cleveland. Logan Paul is from Cleveland. I think that's where they're going to have a pretty big moment with all of this. So I think they're going to build up to that, and then have him lose in his hometown, like the
Who
good
do you
old days.
who do you see him losing the belt to in Cleveland?
Honestly, off the top of my head, I think LA Knight probably makes the most sense. Is like the guy who needs a moment. Like if you have like Kevin Owens, it's just another United States title reign, and something. It feels like LA Knight needs that kind of win, and I don't think he's at that world heavyweight title or undisputed heavyweight or welterweight or whatever the titles are called, universal welterweight, heavyweight champion, whatever. Yeah, so I think LA Knight's probably going to be the guy, but I could be completely wrong. And they could, decide, hey, they're going to put Braun Breaker in that spot or something. They could go that way too. I don't. It depends on what they're planning with him. And yeah,
I like it. I think that is a good spot for LA Knight. The penultimate match of the night, we had Bailey versus Io Sky, and another really, really solid match. This felt like a WrestleMania match to me. Bailey, I'm very skeptical on Bailey as a babyface, just because the hugger thing. I think they really were banking on that being a big hit for her. It never really worked out. I did enjoy her as a heel for parts of her heel run. I love the hell out of Ding Dong Hello. I kind of thought that they ditched that too quickly, but that kind of showed off some of her personality a little bit. And during that time, I thought, okay, maybe this babyface thing could work at some point. But other than, well, the damage control thing happened and they kicked my ass, what really makes Bailey a babyface? Regardless, she wins tonight in a good match versus Io Sky. No damage control involvement, just a clean 1, 2, 3.
yeah, that was it was a little shocking that they didn't try to go that route, considering that was kind of been. I mean, it's kind of the heel go-to in all of WWE is to have members of the group interfere in the match, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't even bring out somebody and have like Asuka try to miss her, but then like missed Io Sky instead or something like that. Like it felt like they could have done a few of those. Like, oh, there the attack goes wrong and the good person and the good guy actually outsmarts the bad guys for once and gets the win. They didn't go that route, but yeah, it was still a good match. I was not. It did all the things that it needed to do. I think the right person won the match. I think Bailey needed that moment. I don't know how this title reign, how long this is going to go. And there's a lot of. It seems like there's a lot of people that could go after her, especially like with Bianca Belair now, like not trusting her and everything like that. There's a lot of stuff there. So a lot of contenders, but at the end of the day, I love Bailey, and I know like you have that love for Bailey in a way from that bench that she had with Sasha Banks, which was a long time ago at this point, but like still, even from that moment, it was just like I I I think Bailey's great, and I think she's really been underrated through most of her WWE run. And has it always been successful? No, like you said, like the Ding Dong Hello stuff was great, but there was a lot of it that was just kind of like, maybe Bailey's not it. And but she never really got a shot at the end of the day. I think there's just again, I think there's just something that Vince didn't think worked with her and that Triple H does see in her. And I think that's one of the big differences between that generation and this new generation. And we'll see how Bailey does as the champion now.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, something we haven't seen in that women's division is why haven't we seen a character that's just like, I'm a really great fucking wrestler? You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
seen that with dudes before, and I've never really seen it in their women's division where that's kind of like their bread and butter. And Bailey is that. She is a great professional wrestler. As you alluded to just now, my favorite wrestling match of all time, male, female, anything, was Bailey versus Sasha Banks at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. So clearly she's got the goods in the ring. We'll see what happens with her character. As far as Io Sky and Damage Control, I'm actually worried about a lot more than Bailey.
Oh yeah.
I can easily see a scenario where their new role is just, hey, we need you to job to Jade Cargill. We need someone to take a pin from Bianca tonight, and that's just they kind of fade into obscurity.
It definitely could go that way. I feel like there is still some potential there, but and I feel like Triple H, obviously really likes Io Sky. Um, he brought back Kairi Sane for a reason. There's got to be a reason other than just teaming with Asuka. And Asuka had, Triple H was in charge of NXT during Asuka's undefeated streak there, whether Goldberg wants to recognize it or not. And yeah, so I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's all of these people are Triple H people. So I think he's going to do. I don't think they're going to necessarily fade away, but at the same time, for the for the near future, yeah, they're probably going to be doing a lot of jobs and just being the good hands on the card.
Shout out to Goldberg for talking shit about Asuka. Like, I don't know if that's a smart move. I mean, Goldberg got beat in a shoot fight by Chris Jericho. Maybe Asuka could take him down too, especially at his age. So
This
I
is
could see
true.
her kicking his fucking head off. So yeah, that just leaves us with the main event, which we talked about extensively earlier. I guess if you have anything to add, I would just say there's there's two things. Number one, I think of Brad Pitt as Billy Bean in the scene in Moneyball, but I'm going to replace baseball with wrestling and say, how can you not be romantic about pro wrestling? And then there was another great YouTube video from someone who was canceled, but it was called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling.
Yeah.
Max Landis created it. It is on YouTube. You should watch it if you're a wrestling fan. It's must see, where he explains his love for wrestling via storytelling device of Triple H's career. And at the end of it, he says, don't get me wrong, a lot of wrestling sucks, but when it's good, it's fucking great. And I think that just sums up my fandom for pro wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I love that video as well, and thinking it made every time I do watch something like the Bray Wyatt documentary, it makes me think of that because there were a lot of moments in Bray Wyatt's career that sucked, but they did not highlight those in the documentary. They didn't highlight the Goldberg loss. They didn't highlight a lot of the stuff with. They didn't highlight the Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match. They didn't talk about any of that stuff. Instead, they glanced over it, being like, "Oh, there was some booking decisions. There's some disagreements on how things were gonna go. Like whatever." There were some bad moments with Bray Wyatt. He lost a lot of matches in his career, but the highs of Bray Wyatt's career were really fucking high, and those were all accentuated perfectly in that. And um, so yeah, sometimes wrestling sucks, but these moments when you have somebody like Cody Rhodes finally, finish the story, win the championship, whatever, those key moments, that's the area that WWE does excel in. And tonight was one of those nights.
Well, thanks for joining me, Brent. As we said, it's a new era of WWE tomorrow, the Raw after Mania. You know it's going to be hyped. Hasn't been in the last few years, but I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of meat on the bone tomorrow. I think we're going to see some big angles. Do you have any predictions for tomorrow?
Well, today on the internet, there's a lot of talks about Jacob Fatu. And I don't know if he slides into Raw, if he slides into SmackDown, if he slides into NXT, if he's where he's gonna fall in this big picture. But if they're gonna if they're gonna start some sort of bloodline feud, maybe that's the card that they're gonna pull for that.
Yeah, I just have this sneaking suspicion Roman is going away for a while, and I think tomorrow we are going to see an angle where he is excommunicated, he is jumped, he's beaten down, and The Rock takes over as the new leader of the bloodline, mostly off camera, and he'll pop up here and there in important shows, but just setting up for the eventual Rock Roman match of, I don't know, maybe night 1, maybe night 2 next year of Mania. I'm already on the record. I think one of the main events is going to be Punk and Cody. That would be a star-studded night too. But as far as any returns, I've got Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I mean, that one makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, there's really not a lot of
has not a lot of people on the shelf right now.
There really isn't. No, it would just be like somebody like Carmella, but I know she's been dealing with a lot of post-pregnancy issues and stuff like that. So I think her leg was weird or foot was weird, or there was some sort of something with that. So yeah, I don't know if there's really any this person we haven't seen in a while. I mean, Sheamus hasn't been around for a while. So maybe there's going to be something with Sheamus either on Raw or on SmackDown. Otherwise, I'm not really sure.
Sure. Well, and real quick before we go, I'd be remiss to say if I didn't shout out Tony Khan for using CM Punk to pop a rating once again, even after he's fired. All right. Well, hopefully we talk to you guys soon. We're trying to maybe make this a weekly thing. So if next time we see you, we'll probably recap Raw after Mania, SmackDown after Mania, and probably a very, very controversial episode of Dynamite this week.
Yeah, it's this was a big week in wrestling, and I don't think next week is going to be. Obviously, it's not going to be as big because it's not going to have a WrestleMania event to it. But I think news-wise, the news cycle is not going to stop at this point, and I think this next week will be very, very interesting.
I'm here for it. Well, thank you guys so much. That's going to do it for the This Is Awesome Wrestling Recap podcast. Catch us next time. Thank you.